Here we are again in the cold, dark depths of winter. The days are short, the nights are long, it's dark when you go to work in the morning, it's dark when you come home, and the days all seem to be cloudy, gloomy, and sunny days are few and far between. Then you add all of that in, along with freezing temperatures, through months and months of winter. It's no wonder we're all sad. In this case, SAD is a somewhat unfortunate yet comical acronym for Seasonal Affective Disorder or Seasonal Depression. This is a relatively common disorder that can have a pretty substantial impact on your life and well-being, generally beginning as early as the fall and subsiding in the spring or summer. Now, as of today, we're still in February. Some of us have been hanging on for dear life for a while now, and we still have a decent amount of winter left. So I wanted to talk about seasonal affective disorder, what it is, how to recognize it, because you may or may not know if you have it or if a friend or family member does. And then finally, some recommendations for some things that you can do to help combat it, to help get you through this winter in a happier, healthier fashion. Without any further ado, let's dive in. Starting out, what is seasonal affective disorder? So to use the correct terminology, the DSM-5, which is essentially the official diagnostic manual for psychiatry, lists this diagnosis as major depressive disorder with seasonal pattern, but it's commonly referred to as seasonal affective disorder or SAD. So because SAD is a subtype of major depressive disorder, also known as MDD, we first need to understand what that means, and then we can add in the additional criteria for SAD. For major depressive disorder, the DSM-5 gets a little more specific, but to keep things simple, we can use the handy acronym SIGGI-CAPS, because you know in medicine, we love our acronyms. So SIGGI-CAPS stands for S, sleep changes, which could be more or less than normal. I, loss of interest in your usual activities. G, feelings of guilt or worthlessness. E, lack of energy or fatigue. C, loss of concentration. A, appetite or weight changes, could be more or less than normal. P, psychomotor agitation or retardation, so moving or speaking slower or faster than normal such that other people would notice. And then S, suicidal ideations. And to meet the diagnostic criteria for MDD, you have to have at least 4 of these symptoms plus either depressed mood or anhedonia for at least a 2-week period. Now that we've established the diagnosis of major depressive disorder, we can add in the modifiers to meet the criteria for SAD. So again, this would include recurrent major depressive disorder with the following. For the first point, you need to have a regular temporal relationship between the time of onset of major depressive disorder and a particular time of year. An example of that temporal relationship would be the start of the fall or winter season, followed by the onset of a major depressive episode. Number 2, full remission at a specific time of year. So adding into our example, you would have the start of the fall or winter, followed by the onset of a depressive episode, which then resolves either in the spring or summertime. The next point is that this needs to occur for at least 2 consecutive years without any non-seasonal major depressive episodes. So adding to our example, if you typically experience these episodes in the wintertime, but then you also experience an episode in the summer, this would no longer be SAD and would simply fall under major depressive disorder. And the last point is that the number of seasonal episodes must substantially outnumber the non-seasonal episodes over an individual's lifetime. This one's a little more subjective though, because the DSM-5 doesn't really define or quantify what meets the threshold for substantial. Just a couple additional points here. While winter is the most common time for this to occur, it doesn't have to be winter. For example, you could experience depressive episodes in the summertime that resolve in the winter. The main thing is just some kind of seasonal pattern. Also, SAD is not applicable as a diagnosis if those seasonal depressive episodes are better explained by other psychosocial stressors, such as seasonal unemployment or school schedules. For example, the teacher who lives and breathes to mold the young minds of the future, who gets depressed in the summertime when they're not in the classroom. This would likely fall under either adjustment disorder with depressed mood, which is characterized by depressive symptoms that develop within 3 months of the stressor that don't fully meet the standard for major depressive disorder, i.e. those SIGGI-CAPS criteria that we talked about, or if those SIGGI-CAPS criteria are met, then it would simply fall under major depressive disorder. Okay, so now that we have a better understanding of what SAD is, we can start to talk about some things that you can do to help mitigate it. And there are a few different ways you can go about this. There's the medical route, the self-care route, and some combination of both. And we'll talk about all three, but before we dive into each one, I briefly want to discuss a concept that I think applies to all three, and that is recognition and acceptance. So recognizing that this is a real issue that you're struggling with and accepting that, which can then open the door for you to either help yourself and or to seek help from others. This may sound simple, but it's a pretty big point I wanted to bring up because oftentimes there can be quite a bit of stigma around these types of issues. And to help fight that stigma, I think it helps to understand that you're not the only one dealing with this and that it's actually relatively common. So how common is it? Well, generally speaking, SAD affects about 5% of the US population, and that may not sound like a lot off the bat, but taking into account the US population in 2026, which is roughly 349 million people, that equates to about 17.5 million people affected by SAD in the US. One other thing to note here is that 5% represents an average across all of the United States, not taking into account variability by geographic region. Those numbers tend to be lower in southern regions with warmer winters and more sun exposure, and conversely, SAD tends to be more prevalent in northern regions with harsher winters and less sun exposure. For example, I'm from the very northern edge of Indiana, just south of Michigan. The winters there tend to be very cold, snowy, and we don't see too many sunny days in between fall and spring. And I couldn't find any data for this specific example, but I would expect the prevalence of SAD to be significantly higher there compared to somewhere like Florida, where the winters are much warmer, sunnier, and snow is exceedingly rare. Circling back, all of this to say that SAD is a real problem that affects a lot of people. You're definitely not alone. And there's nothing wrong with you. You're not doing anything wrong. This is a legitimate medical issue that can be treated. In recognizing and accepting that, now we can move forward into recommendations, things that you can do to help mitigate or treat it. As I said before, we have three different pathways that we can take for this. We have the medical route, the self-care route, and some combination of both. And we're actually going to start with the self-care route because I recognize that not everybody may be ready or willing to start a medication for this. People can be hesitant to start medications for a variety of reasons, and it's understandable. Or you may be amenable to starting a medication eventually, but you would simply prefer to start with things that you can do on your own, monitor your progress to see if you can improve to an acceptable level to where maybe you don't end up needing a medication. And I think that's totally valid, depending on the severity of your situation. If you have severe depression to the point where you're actively suicidal, that's a different story. Of course, in this case, I would highly recommend seeking medical help immediately, but regardless of the severity, I think it's still a good idea to bring your primary doc into the loop just so they're aware, even if you don't intend on starting a medication initially. That being said, here's some things that you can start doing on your own to try to help improve your symptoms. The first one is light therapy, and there are a couple different forms of light therapy, but the standard recommendation is exposure to 2,500 to 10,000 lux for 30 to 60 minutes every day. The first option is sunlight. So during the day, direct outdoor sunlight can range anywhere between 50 to 100,000 lux. So the light intensity there is more than sufficient. This one can be a little tricky though, because a lack of sunlight in your geographic region may be one of the main contributing factors to why you have SAD in the first place. But on the days that you are blessed with sunshine, take advantage of it. If it's not too cold or you don't mind bundling up, get outside, go for a 30 to 60 minute walk, or sit out, read a book, drink a cup of coffee, whatever your preference. Important to note, sunlight shining through on cloudy or overcast days can still be effective, but it's less effective due to the decreased light intensity. If it's too cold or you don't want to go outside, you can always try sitting in front of a big window with good sunlight exposure, but this tends to be less effective. The effect likely won't be nothing, but it's not considered to be sufficient light therapy treatment for SAD. Option number 2, artificial light sources, specifically bright white light boxes with 2,500 to 10,000 lux capability. Notice I specified white light. I won't get too nerdy on the differences between various light wavelengths, just know that white light tends to work best. And the recommendation here is the same, 30 to 60 minutes a day. Last thing I'll say on light therapy, it's best to do this in the morning if possible to help regulate your circadian rhythm, or if you're an overnight shift worker, you can do it at some point after you wake up. The second point on the self-care route is lifestyle modification, and this includes sleep, exercise, and diet. For sleep, this includes regularity, so going to bed and waking up at roughly the same time every day. Quantity, trying to get 7 to 9 hours of sleep every night. Quality, so try to have good sleep hygiene. That's sleeping in a cold, dark environment without a lot of ambient light or sounds. Be mindful of your screen time before bed. Avoid any substances that can impair your sleep quality, such as alcohol, nicotine, marijuana. Some of these may help you fall asleep faster, but they're not doing any favors for your sleep quality, so try to avoid them in the several hours leading up to bedtime. For exercise, I would generally recommend following the World Health Organization or WHO's physical activity guidelines. These vary a bit depending on age, but for adults 18 to 64, the recommendations are as follows. The first one, doing at least 150 minutes of moderate intensity work or at least 75 minutes of vigorous intensity work throughout the week, or some combination of both. An example of moderate intensity work would be something like a brisk walk or bike riding at a relatively slower pace. Vigorous intensity would be something like running, hiking, swimming, or bike riding at a relatively faster pace. And then the second one is engaging in muscle strengthening activities involving major muscle groups for at least 2 days per week, lifting for example. Then lastly, diet, a big one here being controlling your calories to prevent excessive weight loss or weight gain, and then watching your food quality, ensuring that the majority of your calories are coming from lean meats, whole grains, fruits, and vegetables, while avoiding excessive amounts of sugar and saturated fats. Implementing these lifestyle modifications, if you're not already doing so, in conjunction with light therapy, could potentially lead to dramatic improvement in your SAD symptoms. That's it for the self-care route. Now taking a look into the medical route, first-line treatment for SAD includes 3 recommendations: light therapy, antidepressant medications, and cognitive behavioral therapy, or CBT. Since we already talked about light therapy, we'll move on to medications. First off, a quick disclaimer: antidepressant medications occasionally require individualization regarding their efficacy and side effect profiles. What I mean by that is that sometimes it takes a little trial and error to find the right medication that best serves a particular patient, ideally finding the medication with the most positive effect while minimizing those negative side effects. Everyone responds a little differently. I say that so in the event that you try a medication and it doesn't work for you for whatever reason, it doesn't mean that another one won't. So try not to get discouraged and abandon the process altogether. It may just take a little bit of time to find the right one for you. That being said, here are the first-line antidepressant medications for SAD. First off, we have the selective serotonin reuptake inhibitors, or SSRIs, specifically fluoxetine, brand name Prozac, and sertraline, brand name Zoloft, have the strongest supporting evidence. Then in another medication class known as the atypical antidepressants, we have bupropion, brand name Wellbutrin. And of note, the SSRIs appear to have stronger evidence for acute treatment of SAD, while Wellbutrin is FDA approved for SAD prevention. And then lastly, just so you're aware, there are several different classes of antidepressants, but these are considered the first-line medications. Moving on to cognitive behavioral therapy, or CBT. So there's a specific type of CBT known as cognitive behavioral therapy for seasonal affective disorder, or CBT-SAD, which is tailored to address the maladaptive thoughts and behaviors relating to different seasons, light availability, and weather conditions. This is generally recommended as 2 therapy sessions per week over the course of 6 weeks for a total of 12 sessions. And the idea here is that during these sessions, you're addressing the negative cognitions, restructuring and creating a new framework for them with the intent of those positive cognitive changes persisting after the end of your therapy sessions, and ideally extending out into at least the next winter or 2 by either resolving your symptoms or at least lessening the severity. That's it for the medical route. The last one that we have, which is most likely to have the greatest positive impact, is some combination of both medical and self-care. First, speaking to some combinations of the 3 medical recommendations, so light therapy, antidepressant medications, and CBT-SAD, the response and remission rates vary a bit depending depending on the study and measurement methods, but here's some rough numbers. And I'm going to cheat off of my computer just so I don't get these percentages wrong. The remission rate for SAD using light therapy alone was 47 to 63%. For CBT SAD alone, it was 47 to 56%. And then light therapy in addition to CBT SAD was 73%. And then I also want to give an example of one of the antidepressant medications. They used sertraline here, which had a response rate of 62% compared to 42% for the placebo. To speak briefly on that high response rate for the placebo, there are likely several contributing factors there, including a true placebo effect, and then just the natural course of SAD to self-resolve in the spring or summertime. But that 20% higher response rate for Zoloft is still significant. And I couldn't find any data relating to a combination of all three, so light therapy, antidepressants, and CBT SAD, but I think it's reasonable to assume that the response and remission rates would be higher with a combination of all three. It's tough to quantify the expected improvement with the lifestyle modifications that we talked about, sleep, exercise, and diet, but those can be expected to show some improvement, I think reasonably, when any one of those are used. But then in combination with another, you'd expect a greater effect, and then even more so when used in combination with the three medical options that we talked about. Bottom line, for the best positive outcome, the ideal is probably a combination of all of these things: light therapy, antidepressant medications, CBT SAD, and optimizing your sleep, diet, and exercise. By no means am I saying that you have to do all of these things. You may not need all of them. Ultimately, you're free to make the decision. I'm just here to provide some information to help you make a well-informed decision. Ultimately, I think this is something that you should talk to your doctor about, and they can help guide you forward as well. All right, that's it for today. If you made it to the end of the video, thank you so much for watching. I hope you found this helpful, and if you know anyone who you think may benefit from this information, please go ahead and forward the video to them. You never know what may make a difference. Thanks again, and I'll see you in the next one.